You thought your soulmate chose someone else. But the shocking truth about what really happened will change everything. Don't scroll, because what looked like your soulmate choosing someone else may not have been the full truth at all. My beloved child, I need you to listen carefully, because your heart has been carrying a conclusion that may have been built from only part of the story. You saw the distance. You saw the change in their behavior. Maybe you heard something, noticed someone around them, or watched them become emotionally unavailable when you needed clarity most. And naturally, you thought, they chose someone else over me. But your heart needs this right now. What happened behind the scenes may have been far more complicated than what you were allowed to see. Your soulmate was not simply standing between you and another person, calmly deciding who mattered more. They were standing between fear and truth, between outside pressure and their own feelings, between the life they thought they were supposed to choose and the connection their heart could not easily forget. And now something inside them is beginning to break open. Wait, because the person you thought replaced you may never have held the place in your soulmate's heart that you imagined. Listen to this. Sometimes appearances create stories the heart immediately believes because pain wants an explanation. You may have seen your soulmate spending time with someone, speaking about someone, or becoming connected to a situation that made you feel pushed aside. My beloved child, what you could not see was what happened after the public moments ended. You did not see the silence. You did not hear the private questions. You did not witness the comparisons your soulmate began making without wanting to admit it. They may have been surrounded by another person while still feeling the absence of you. They may have tried to convince themselves that moving in a different direction was practical, easier, safer, or less emotionally intense. But every time they tried to settle into that decision, something inside them refused to become peaceful. Listen closely, because your soulmate may have made a choice with their mind that their heart never fully accepted. This is where the truth becomes uncomfortable. Maybe they believed another person offered fewer complications. Maybe family, friends, timing, distance, responsibilities, or old fears made the alternative seem easier. Perhaps they told themselves that love should not feel this intense, so they chose what felt controlled instead of what felt deeply meaningful. Don't scroll, because later they discovered something they never expected. Easier does not always mean right. Quiet does not always mean peaceful. Familiar does not always mean fulfilling. And avoiding a powerful connection does not automatically erase it. Your heart needs this right now, because there was a moment when your soulmate realized they had been comparing everything to you. Maybe the other person said something and your soulmate instantly thought about how you would have responded. Maybe they experienced a difficult day and realized the person they really wanted to talk to was you. Perhaps they laughed at something and suddenly remembered your laugh. Maybe they sat beside someone else and felt a strange emptiness they could not explain. My beloved child, this is not about saying another person has no value. It is about recognizing that connections feel different. And your soulmate began noticing that the emotional depth, safety, familiarity, or spiritual pull they experienced with you was not something they could simply recreate because they wanted to move on. Don't look away, because the biggest shock may be that your soulmate never stopped questioning the decision. On the outside, they may have appeared certain. Maybe they acted confident because admitting confusion would have forced them to face everything they were trying to escape. But inside, questions kept returning. Did I make the right choice? Why do I still think about them? Why does this feel unfinished? Why am I trying so hard to convince myself I'm okay? Listen to this, because those questions became louder as time passed. Your soulmate expected distance from you to weaken their feelings. Instead, distance removed distractions and showed them what remained. Pause here, because the universe may have been reflecting this unfinished energy back to you through signs that made you stop and wonder. Perhaps 111 appeared when you were thinking about beginning again. Maybe 222 showed up when you were questioning whether there was balance in this connection. Perhaps 333 seemed to catch your attention when you were asking for direction, 444 when you needed grounding, or 555 when everything around you felt like it was changing. My beloved child, let those signs bring you back to your own awareness rather than making you chase an outcome. They do not need to promise that someone is returning tomorrow. Sometimes repeating numbers simply become reminders that your life is moving, your understanding is deepening, and your choices matter. Stay with this message, because something happened that forced your soulmate to stop pretending the new direction had solved everything. Maybe the person they appeared to choose did something that revealed a major difference in values. Maybe a conversation exposed that the emotional connection was not what your soulmate hoped it would become. Perhaps the situation became more complicated than expected. Or maybe nothing dramatic happened at all. Maybe your soulmate simply woke up one day and realized that despite everything they had done to move forward, their heart still carried unanswered feelings for you. Don't scroll, because sometimes the most shocking truth arrives quietly. Listen carefully, because your soulmate is also beginning to recognize why they ran toward another direction in the first place. It may not have been because they loved you less. It may have been because loving you required more vulnerability than they knew how to handle. My beloved child, you may have awakened parts of them they had kept buried. You made them feel seen. You may have understood things about them without needing long explanations. You challenged them to imagine a deeper kind of commitment, and that brought old fears to the surface. Someone else may have felt safer because that connection did not reach the same unhealed places. But your soulmate is now learning that avoiding vulnerability also meant avoiding emotional depth. Don't scroll, because there may have been outside pressure you never knew about. Perhaps someone told your soulmate that choosing you would be too difficult. Maybe family expectations influenced them. Maybe a friend questioned the connection. Maybe someone from their past told them they were making a mistake. Listen to this. When someone already feels afraid, outside opinions can become louder than intuition. Your soulmate may have followed advice that sounded logical at the time, only to discover later that those people were not living inside their heart. They were not the ones who had to wake up with the consequences. Your heart needs this right now, because you may have interpreted their choice as proof that someone else was better than you. My beloved child, stop carrying that comparison. Love is not a ranking system. Another person being chosen in a moment does not mean they were more valuable, more lovable, more attractive, or more worthy than you. Sometimes people choose based on readiness, fear, convenience, pressure, timing, or emotional habits. And sometimes they later realize that their decision did not reflect what their heart truly wanted. Your worth was never reduced because someone was confused. Wait, Because your soulmate may be starting to see that the person they chose represented something familiar rather than something deeply aligned. Maybe familiarity felt safe. Maybe they knew how that type of relationship worked. Maybe it did not demand as much emotional honesty. But don't scroll, because spiritual awakening often begins when familiarity stops feeling enough. Your soulmate may be realizing that repeating an old pattern will keep creating an old result. If they want a different kind of love, they must eventually become a different kind of partner. Listen to this, because there is one memory of you that keeps resurfacing whenever they question what happened. It may be a conversation where you showed unusual patience. A moment when you supported them without asking for anything back. A time when they were emotionally exposed and you did not judge them. Perhaps it was something small that you barely remember. My beloved child, that memory has become powerful because it represents how genuine the connection felt before fear complicated everything. Every time it returns, your soulmate is reminded that what happened between you was not imagined. Don't look away, because they may also be starting to regret how they allowed you to interpret the situation. Maybe they knew you thought they had chosen someone else, but they never explained what was truly happening. Perhaps they believed silence was kinder than a complicated conversation. Maybe they did not have the courage to admit that they were confused. My beloved child, they are realizing now that leaving you without clarity may have hurt more than honesty would have. You were left filling in the blanks, and pain often fills blanks with the harshest possible explanation. Your heart needs this right now, because your spiritual journey through this connection has been teaching you not to build your worth around another person's decision. Maybe you wanted them desperately once. Maybe you thought losing them meant losing the future you were meant to have. But look at how much you have survived. Look at how much clearer your standards are becoming. You are beginning to understand that even a soulmate connection needs honesty, reciprocity, and effort. Don't scroll. Destiny is not an excuse for someone to keep you waiting indefinitely. Listen closely, because your soulmate can sense that you are changing. Maybe you are no longer reaching toward them with the same intensity. Perhaps you stopped looking for signs of their attention. Maybe your energy has become quieter because you are tired of trying to understand what another person refuses to explain. My beloved child, this shift is making them nervous. For the first time, they are realizing that even if they change their mind, you may not simply return to where you were before. You have learned too much. Stay here, because this is where their regret turns into fear. Your soulmate has begun imagining the possibility that while they were trying to choose a safer path, you might meet someone who chooses you clearly. Someone who does not need months of confusion to understand your value. Someone who communicates. Someone who is emotionally present. Someone who makes you feel secure instead of constantly asking where you stand. Don't scroll, because that image is not only making your soulmate jealous. It is forcing them to recognize what they failed to offer. Pause for a moment, because 222 may feel especially meaningful during this chapter. Think about balance. One person cannot carry an entire connection. If your soulmate comes back toward you, they cannot expect you to do all the emotional work again. If 444 appears, think about foundation. What would it take for you to trust this person now? If 555 appears, remember that a new chapter requires real change. My beloved child, signs may inspire you, but behavior must guide your decisions. Don't scroll, because something about the other connection may now be coming to an end, or at least changing in a way your soulmate can no longer ignore. Maybe they realized they were staying for reasons that had nothing to do with love. Maybe they were trying to prove to themselves that they could move on. Perhaps they were afraid to admit that their heart still carried you. Listen to this. Your soulmate is starting to understand that involving another person while emotionally unresolved can create pain for everyone. And that realization may be pushing them toward a difficult truth they have delayed for too long. Your heart needs this right now, because the truth they want to tell you is not simply, "I chose wrong." It is deeper. They may want to say, "I was afraid of choosing what felt real because real meant I could lose something important." My beloved child, that is a different confession. It does not erase what happened. It does not automatically restore trust. But it reveals that what looked like rejection may have been a person making decisions from fear rather than emotional clarity. Listen carefully, because someone close to your soulmate may already have confronted them. Maybe a friend said, "You keep talking about this person even though you chose someone else." Maybe someone asked, "If you're so happy, why do you still look affected whenever their name comes up?" Don't look away, because those questions may have cracked the story your soulmate was telling themselves. Other people could see something they were still trying to deny. Wait, because the most difficult realization came when your soulmate finally admitted that choosing someone else did not make them stop loving you. My beloved child, that truth scared them. It forced them to confront their own emotional dishonesty. They realized that they had been trying to solve an inner conflict with an external decision. But a decision cannot erase an unresolved feeling. Only truth can begin to resolve it. Don't scroll, because this is where their spiritual awakening becomes responsibility. If they are involved with another person, they cannot simply chase you while ignoring that reality. They have to become honest with everyone involved. They have to stop creating triangles out of fear. They have to take responsibility for their choices. Your heart needs this right now because genuine love does not need deception in order to survive. If your soulmate ever approaches you again, their situation should be clear, not hidden behind another layer of confusion. Listen to this, because you deserve clarity too. You do not need to accept being someone's secret emotional escape while they remain committed elsewhere. You do not have to compete. You do not need to prove you are the better choice. My beloved child, if this person truly understands what happened, they will realize that they must clean up their own life before asking for access to yours. That is part of maturity. Stay with me, because your soulmate may be approaching that exact decision. They are beginning to understand that continuing to live one truth publicly while carrying another privately is exhausting. Something has to change. They either have to genuinely release you and honor the path they chose, or they have to confront the reasons they chose it and make honest decisions from there. Don't scroll, because they cannot stay emotionally divided forever without eventually hurting everyone involved. Your heart needs this right now, because whatever happens next, you are not powerless. Maybe once you felt that your soulmate choosing someone else had decided the entire story. It didn't. You still have a future. You still have choices. You still decide what kind of love enters your life. My beloved child, this is your awakening too. Being chosen is not the only thing that matters. Being chosen correctly matters. Being respected matters. Being loved openly matters. Listen closely, because your soulmate is beginning to realize the same thing from the opposite direction. They thought choosing the easier option would bring stability. Instead, it exposed how much they had avoided. They are learning that love cannot be built on running from fear. It has to be built on truth. And the truth is getting louder. Don't leave this message yet, because there is one final piece they have not told you. Something happened during the exact period when you believed they had completely chosen the other person. There was a conversation, a discovery, or a private moment that made your soulmate immediately question everything. They kept it hidden because admitting it would have forced them to acknowledge that the path they chose was already beginning to crack. My beloved child, that moment may explain why their energy toward you never fully disappeared. And listen carefully to this final revelation, because what comes next could change the whole story. Your soulmate did not simply discover that they still had feelings for you. They discovered something about the person or situation they chose instead. Something that made them realize they may have based one of the biggest emotional decisions of their life on an assumption that was never completely true. And now they are standing between regret and action, knowing that if they tell you what really happened, you may finally understand why they walked away, but they also know you may ask the one question they are most afraid to answer. If you knew your heart still wanted me, why did you wait this long to tell the truth? Don't scroll, because the assumption your soulmate built their decision on is beginning to fall apart right in front of them. My beloved child, what they believed was certain is no longer feeling certain at all. For a long time, they told themselves they had made the sensible choice. They convinced themselves that the path they took would eventually feel right simply because it looked easier from the outside. But listen to this, because your heart needs this right now. Something has surfaced that is forcing them to question whether they misunderstood the entire situation. Maybe they were told something that was incomplete. Maybe they assumed another person could give them the stability they were afraid to ask from you. Maybe they thought moving away from you would protect them from emotional chaos. But now they are beginning to understand that the chaos was not created by loving you. It was created by avoiding the truth about what they actually felt. Wait, because the first thing that shocked them was how quickly the new situation started revealing cracks. Your soulmate may have tried to convince themselves that this was normal, that every connection has awkward moments, that everything simply needed time. But deep down, they noticed something was missing. The conversations did not reach the same emotional depth. The sense of being understood was different. The connection may have looked good from the outside, but inside, something felt forced. My beloved child, don't scroll, because this is where comparison began. They did not want to compare anyone to you, but their heart kept doing it naturally. The way you listened. The way you noticed their moods. The way you made them feel safe enough to be vulnerable. These details began returning at the exact moment they were trying hardest to forget them. Listen closely, because your soulmate started realizing that choosing someone else did not actually solve the fear that made them run from you. That fear followed them. It showed up again in different conversations, different silences, different moments of insecurity. My beloved child, this message is for you because they are finally recognizing a pattern. They thought you were the reason they felt overwhelmed. Now they are beginning to see that the overwhelm came from unhealed parts of themselves. No matter who stood beside them, those fears were still there. And that truth is uncomfortable because it means walking away from you did not fix the real problem. Your heart needs this right now, because your soulmate is also beginning to regret the story they allowed you to believe. You thought they chose someone else because you were not enough. Maybe you wondered what that person had that you did not. Maybe you compared yourself in ways that slowly damaged your confidence. Don't scroll, because your soulmate never wanted you to see yourself through that painful comparison, yet their silence created exactly that result. They are starting to understand that leaving you without explanation allowed you to fill in the blanks with the harshest possibility. And now they want to correct something they should have corrected much sooner. You were never simply less than someone else. Pause here, because one conversation may have completely changed the way they saw the person they chose. Perhaps something was said that revealed a different set of values. Maybe your soulmate discovered that the emotional security they expected was not actually there. Maybe the other person wanted something completely different from the future. Or perhaps your soulmate realized that they were trying to force a bond that never carried the same emotional honesty. My beloved child, whatever happened, it created a quiet moment of truth. They looked at the situation and thought, I chose this because it felt safe, but why do I still feel unsettled? Don't look away, because that question brought your memory back stronger than before. Your soulmate began thinking about the moments when you challenged them emotionally. Not because you wanted conflict, but because you wanted honesty. You may have asked questions that made them uncomfortable. You may have wanted to know what they really felt. You may have expected them to be vulnerable instead of hiding behind vague answers. Listen to this. At the time, they may have considered that intensity too much. Now they are wondering whether what they called too much was actually the emotional depth required for a real relationship. Stay with this message, because the universe may have been reflecting this lesson back to you through your own awakening. Maybe 222 keeps appearing when you think about balance. Maybe 444 shows up when you need to remember that stable love should feel grounded, not confusing. Perhaps 555 appears while you are letting go of old expectations, and 111 catches your attention when you imagine a new beginning for yourself. My beloved child, let these signs remind you that your destiny is bigger than being chosen by one person. The deeper question is whether the love entering your life matches the standards your soul has been learning to hold. Listen carefully, because your soulmate is beginning to understand that the person they chose may have been part of an escape rather than a true answer. That realization does not make the other person bad. It means your soulmate may have entered that situation for the wrong reasons. Maybe they wanted distraction. Maybe they wanted proof they could move on. Maybe they wanted something less emotionally demanding. Don't scroll, because now they are seeing the cost of that choice. You cannot build a healthy future while secretly comparing everything to an unresolved connection from your past. Your heart needs this right now, because if your soulmate is still involved with someone else, they have a responsibility to become honest before coming toward you. My beloved child, this is important. You do not deserve to become part of another triangle. You do not need hidden conversations, secret emotions, or half-commitments. If they truly understand what happened, they must deal with their present situation cleanly and honestly. Spiritual connection does not excuse deception. Real love does not require someone else to be betrayed so that you can be chosen. Don't scroll, because your soulmate is beginning to realize that too. They are asking themselves whether they have been fair to anyone involved. They know that carrying feelings for you while pretending everything is settled elsewhere creates emotional dishonesty. Listen to this. For the first time, they may be considering that the most loving thing they can do is stop pretending. That could mean having difficult conversations. It could mean admitting confusion. It could mean ending something that was built on avoidance. Whatever happens, they are starting to understand that truth has to come before reunion. Wait, because someone close to them may have asked a question that pierced right through every excuse. If you chose someone else, why are you still talking about them? My beloved child, your soulmate may have had no answer. Maybe they tried to laugh it off. Maybe they became defensive. But later, alone, that question returned. Don't look away, because it forced them to admit something they had been trying to hide. They did not emotionally choose another person as completely as they pretended they had. Listen closely, because there may have been one moment when they almost said your name while speaking about the future. Maybe it was an innocent mistake, or maybe your memory simply surfaced automatically. That moment startled them because it revealed how deeply you were still present inside their emotional world. My beloved child, this message is for you because sometimes the heart reveals itself through the things people do not plan. Your soulmate is beginning to see that no matter how carefully they controlled their outward choices, their inner truth kept finding ways to appear. Your heart needs this right now, because you may have spent too long thinking their choice erased what happened between you. It did not erase the lessons. It did not erase the impact. It did not erase your growth. My beloved child, even if the two of you never return to the same place, this connection changed you. It taught you not to beg to be chosen. It taught you to recognize when someone's fear is asking you to carry too much emotional uncertainty. And it taught you that your own peace has to be part of every love story you enter. Don't scroll, because your soulmate is now afraid of facing you for a very specific reason. They know you may ask, why did you choose someone else if you knew you still had feelings for me? And they do not have a comfortable answer. Maybe the truth is that they were scared. Maybe they wanted something easier. Maybe they thought another person would help them forget you. Maybe they assumed you would always remain emotionally available if they changed their mind later. Listen to this. Whatever the answer is, they know it may hurt you, and that is why they have delayed telling it. Pause here, because delaying the truth has started hurting them too. They are beginning to understand that every day they remain silent adds another layer to the regret. My beloved child, they cannot go back and change the moment they chose a different path. But they can decide whether they continue building their life around a decision that no longer feels honest. That is the crossroads they are standing at now. Stay with this message, because one particular memory may be pulling them back toward clarity. Perhaps there was a day when you told them, I just want honesty. You were not asking for perfection. You were not demanding that they guarantee the future. You simply wanted to know where you stood. Don't scroll, because your soulmate is replaying that now and realizing how simple the answer could have been if fear had not controlled them. They could have said, "I care about you, but I'm scared." Instead, they created a distance that made you believe you had been replaced. Listen carefully, because 444 may feel especially important here as a symbol of foundation. If your soulmate returns, what kind of foundation would be needed? Honesty from the beginning. Clear boundaries. No hidden third-party involvement. No comparing you against someone else. No using silence as punishment or protection. My beloved child, a reunion only matters if the structure beneath it changes. Otherwise, the same pain simply wears a new face. Don't look away, because your soulmate may also be recognizing that you are no longer the same person they left behind. Maybe once you would have accepted any explanation simply to have them back. Now you may ask harder questions. You may need consistency. You may need proof that they are emotionally available. My beloved child, that growth is not a problem. It is protection. And if your soulmate truly cares, they will understand that they do not get to demand the old version of you simply because they finally found clarity. Your heart needs this right now, because being someone's real choice is about more than being picked after another option fails. Listen to this carefully. You deserve to know why they are coming back. Are they returning because the other situation became difficult? Or because they genuinely confronted the truth about themselves? Those are not the same thing. My beloved child, let their actions reveal the difference. If they have grown, they will take responsibility. They will not simply blame the other person. They will explain what they learned, what changed, and how they plan to show up differently. Don't scroll, because your soulmate is beginning to understand that this is the standard they must meet. They know they cannot approach you saying, "It didn't work with them, so I came back." That would disrespect your heart. They must be able to say something deeper. "I realized I made my original choice from fear. I understand how that affected you. I have dealt honestly with the situation I created, and I want to speak to you without asking you to rescue me from the consequences." My beloved child, that is the level of maturity this connection now requires. Wait, because another truth may be emerging about the person they chose. Perhaps that person sensed from the beginning that your soulmate was emotionally unresolved. Maybe they asked about you. Maybe they noticed how your soulmate reacted when your name came up. Perhaps there were arguments because the emotional shadow of your connection never fully left. Don't scroll, because if that happened, your soulmate may now realize they were not only unfair to you, they were also unfair to the other person by entering something before they had fully processed what they felt. Listen closely, because this realization may be forcing them to end the cycle of avoidance completely. No more using one person to escape feelings for another. No more pretending that a decision made from fear automatically becomes right with time. My beloved child, this is part of their spiritual awakening. They are being asked to become more honest than they have ever been before, even if honesty creates temporary discomfort. Your heart needs this right now, because you are being asked to do something similar. Be honest with yourself. Do you still want this connection, or do you only want the answer you once needed? Do you want this person as they are becoming now, or are you attached to who you hoped they would become? Don't scroll past these questions. Your awakening is not only about hearing their truth. It is about hearing your own. Stay with this message, because your soulmate may be preparing to tell you about the exact moment the other connection stopped feeling like a real choice. Something happened. Maybe they were sitting beside that person and suddenly felt completely alone. Maybe the future was being discussed and your soulmate could not picture themselves in it. Maybe they realized they were performing happiness instead of experiencing it. My beloved child, that moment scared them because it made one thing clear: they had been trying to convince themselves instead of listening to themselves. Listen to this, because after that moment they may have started thinking about you differently. Not only with longing, but with accountability. They stopped asking, "Do I still miss them?" and started asking, "Why did I walk away from something I knew mattered?" That question pushed them toward the truth they had avoided from the beginning. Don't scroll, because this is where regret can either become growth or become another excuse. What they do next will show you which one it is. My beloved child, if they choose growth, they will not rush you. They will not pressure you by saying destiny demands another chance. They will not use angel numbers or spiritual language to bypass the pain that happened. They will speak plainly. They will listen. They will allow you to decide. Your heart needs this right now because healthy love respects freedom. Don't look away, because your soulmate is also beginning to understand what losing you for good would actually mean. It would not only mean losing romance. It would mean losing the opportunity to repair something they now realize they damaged through fear. It would mean carrying a lesson they may never forget. Listen closely. That is why the urgency is becoming stronger, but urgency alone is not enough. Courage must become action. Pause here, because something may soon force them to make that action unavoidable. The other person, a close friend, or even a family member may have asked them directly whether they are truly happy. My beloved child, they may have answered too quickly. Maybe they said yes while their face told a different story. And later, that question stayed with them. Am I truly happy, or am I simply committed to defending a decision I once made? Don't scroll, because that question is powerful enough to change a life. Your soulmate is beginning to see that pride kept them in the wrong direction longer than fear originally put them there. Admitting they chose from fear means admitting they were wrong. And for some people, that is harder than staying unhappy. But listen to this: they are getting closer to choosing truth over pride. Your heart needs this right now, because whatever decision they make, you are still moving forward. Your life is not paused inside their realization. Your worth is not waiting for their apology. My beloved child, keep building your peace. Keep becoming the version of yourself who recognizes love by how it shows up, not only by how intensely it is described. Stay with this final message, because your soulmate is carrying one more truth that may be the hardest one yet. The person they appeared to choose may not have been the person who convinced them to walk away from you in the first place. Someone else may have influenced that decision before the new connection ever began. A conversation, a warning, or a hidden piece of information may have made your soulmate believe that choosing you would lead to heartbreak. And now they are discovering that what they were told may never have been completely true. Don't scroll away from what comes next, because once your soulmate finds out who planted that fear, why they did it, and what they knew about your connection all along, the entire story may change again. My beloved child, your soulmate is no longer only questioning whom they chose. They are questioning who influenced them, what they believed, and whether they walked away from you because of a truth, or because someone else's fear became louder than their own heart.